So when people arrive at our clinic, they'll be met at the front door by our security guard, Martin. What he'll do is bring people in and they'll be asked to use our hand sanitizer.
This facility didn't exist last week.
And asked to stand behind the line. And at this point they'll be given a mask to put on.
It's for coronavirus patients only. Until a few days ago, they might have been sent to GP practices instead.
They'll be brought into a clinical room where they'll be assessed.
Doctors' surgeries across Scotland now have a new defence against this virus, keeping it as far from their buildings as possible. When someone with coronavirus symptoms is asked to go and see their GP, there's a risk they infect the surgery staff and other patients. Well, in Scotland, they've come up with an entirely new network of coronavirus assessment centres, buildings that have been staffed and kitted out in just a couple of weeks, dedicated only to coronavirus. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, is that Kerry?
Yes, hi.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Very well.
Say hi, guys. Hi.
Hello.
That's my team today.
Hi.
In Glasgow, this new centre was set up in 10 days. Why is it important to keep the coronavirus patients separate in this way?
So one of the biggest risks is the infectivity of COVID, and actually the patients who usually are attending our GP practices often might have multiple other medical conditions, diabetes, heart disease, chest disease, and actually they're at high risk. So if they're the ones, if they become positive with COVID, they're at much higher risk. So if we can try and see them in a way where there's reduced chance of them being infected by COVID, that works far better for that population.
The centres are appointment only. First, you go through 111 and a special coronavirus hotline.
From your description of your symptoms, there's nothing that you're saying that makes me think we need to send you up to the hospital or anything like that.
In Edinburgh, that means this team of GPs. Dr. Patel delayed her retirement this week to join this fledgling workforce.
Some of the stories that I've been hearing this morning have been terrible. Some people have been very surprised at how bad the COVID-19 symptoms have been, and I commiserate with them because they are suffering.
How different is it to what's happening elsewhere in the country?
I think it's unique in the UK, this system. I think in the rest of the country patients are still phoning their general practice in the daytime.
A GP's relieved that this is happening for their own safety?
Yes, they are. A lot of GPs are in buildings that might not be suitable to separate patient flows out, and they were getting a lot of demand on top of their normal demand. So I think practices are very relieved this is happening.
We can also wear, we have our visors.
Wendy and all the staff here in Glasgow were redeployed, choosing to be face-to-face with coronavirus so others don't have to. Did you think twice about doing what you're doing?
No, not really. No, I decided I would come. I probably had a couple of moments and I thought, is this the right thing to do? But then I just remember this is what I'm trained to do, and yes, I know I can do the job. I'm confident I can do my job, and that's what I just have to do.
You're there on the front line dealing with patients who are suspected of having coronavirus. Everyone else in society is running a mile from those sorts of situations, aren't they?
They are, but actually our staff have been absolutely phenomenal. We cannot thank them enough. Every single person has really stepped up and gone above and beyond. People here are happy to come and play a role and are very happy to be in the front line.
Really well. Yeah.
They're only getting started here. They know the worst is still to come.
Now, politicians in Scotland have this week begged people not to flock to the country's remote beauty spots, worried that limited healthcare and other resources will simply be overwhelmed. But some of the smallest communities are banding together to help each other, from public hand-washing stations to scrambling together protective gear for their NHS workers. This is the story of one village's response to this new way of life. From Ballachulish in the Highlands, our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson.
Bullish in Ballachulish. No committee, no bureaucrats, just welding. From scrap metal, volunteers had it done and loaded up in just 6 hours. Delivered to the co-op front door, whether the co-op liked it or not.
Bureaucracy is the friend of this virus, without a doubt, and Organisations that are set up in a certain way to act very slowly are not going to work. What you need is a rapid, community-led organisation that knows the community well.
Across the road, and the village health alert system is up and running. Signs up all over the village, and this one speaks for itself. If things are okay, you've got the green cross and the green thumbs up. However, if things are not looking so good, somebody's ill, it all changes. Red cross, thumbs down, and on the back of this sign, there's all sorts of immediate medical information, numbers to call, and what to do if you suspect you've got the virus. And not only that, as we'll see in a moment, the village is out patrolling.
We'll just check, make sure that's still at green.
By night and by day, volunteer Angus checks if any green signs have gone red. Don't forget, not everyone has internet or a smartphone. Like many here, he says the shortage of protective equipment is getting critical.
I think we really need to step up the game when it's looking for PPE and stuff. It's quite frightening.
There's a real, as you see it, genuine shortage of PPE here.
Wow, yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah, shocking, yeah. Very frightened in the situation we're in, you know, and for all the carers and for all the people that they go and look after.
Indeed. Well, we'll let you get on. You've got to go on your patrol. So
certainly have.
Full music going. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Full recovery.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
The old slate quarry in Ballachulish. Striking quarrymen and the doctor who supported them once laid the basis for today's NHS here generations ago. Now it's a marshalling yard channeling protective gear to, yes, the NHS. And where are you getting this stuff from then?
Well, this stuff came from a hard rock quarry on the west coast. Hand sanitizer we got from the local fish processing plant.
First delivery in the village. Next up, Glencoe paramedics. And finally, the Fort William Health Centre.
We fully support Neil's request to the construction industry countrywide, UK-wide, to look in their store cupboards, get their PP3 masks out and organise to take them to your local hospital or your local assessment centre for the COVID-19.
Inside, nurse Jane Moran lists limited protective equipment. Happy to be broadcast doing so.
So I don't know why people think we're getting all this stuff through, because we aren't. We aren't. It's not coming. And time's running out, because that's what, 10 masks?
Along the road from the village to Glencoe, homemade signs speak to a bruising few days here. The weekend saw electricity contractors self-isolating in Glencoe, but surrounded by hordes of tourists.
I posted one, not yesterday, before, saying, what are we doing here? Like?
Yeah, and there was people here from Italy.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Well, I took a couple of photos of registrations of all the vehicles.
Did you get ones from folk from Italy, or far away?
Yeah, I seen them. They're all parked there, and they blocked us in. And I thought, oh, this is a joke. Like, I just don't understand what's going on here. Like,
Glencoe Ski Centre's figures had almost 1,000 people on the mountain on Saturday. At that point, Niall McLean had had enough.
Yeah, turn the news on, watch Italy. This was one of the things that happened in Italy, okay?
But at the weekend, of course, the ski centre were doing absolutely nothing wrong in law. Villagers then began blocking lay-bys to stop the camper vans, using cones, dragging rocks, even a dead deer used for one lay-by. We won't show you that. So resilience takes many forms here. They've a drone delivery system, airborne paracetamol to remote homes. Let's just say it's unclear if anybody actually asked the Forestry Commission, but as from this morning, the local energy supply is taken care of. So can-do attitudes are doing here and across Britain. But remember Dr. Douglas's orders. Get your company's protective gear to the NHS. Get it there tonight. Alex Thompson, Channel 4 News, Ballachulish.